2020, Troma Entertainment acquired a catalog of films by North American Pictures. It made me more interested in that company, and I did a deep dive into some of the films that they created.
In 1931, the world was horrified by the motion picture Frankenstein. In 1935, horror turned to terror with The Bride of Frankenstein. In 1990, the makers of Basket Case and Brain Damage bring you...
Want a date?
Frankenhooker.
To interview Lloyd Kaufman. Wish me luck.
We talked some years ago about how Troma's been able to survive by buying catalogs of films. So recently you acquired North American Pictures.
The Glickenhaus family became friendly with us, and Jimmy is a great guy and made some wonderful films. And this business is full of crooks, and he was nice enough to trust us. And whether we make any money for him, I don't know. But Maniac Cop and Frankenhooker, and he has he produced some wonderful movies.
There is something in the streets.
Hey!
Something in the shadows. Something in the dark that kills.
You're trying to tell me 2 kids did this?
She's got a statement from an eyewitness that said she saw the kids attack her.
Officer! Oh, thank God it's you. Oh,
You think a cop did this?
Why not?
Reason cannot stop him. Bullets cannot kill him. This is one maniac you'll have to face alone or die. The choice is yours. You can fight him or remain silent forever. Starring Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead, Maniac Cop.
Even though North American Pictures was producing films well into the 2000s, the heyday and the bulk of the films were really from the late 80s to the mid-90s. The films in the catalog I was most interested in were the low-budget action films. So I picked 4 films to talk about: TC 2000 and Tiger Claws 1 through 3. But before we start in, James Richardson is going to give us a little background on how martial arts films were introduced into the United States.
I remember my father first taking me to see Enter the Dragon in 1972. I couldn't have been any more than 6 or 7 years old. And I remember watching Bruce Lee and being absolutely amazed by the whole concept of martial arts, which was kind of new for American audiences. It was kind of the first time that a lot of us were exposed to this on a very wide range. There was this movie theater near my house called the Roosevelt Theater, and there would be all of the old kung fu movies that would be running there. 5 Fingers of Death, 5 Deadly Venoms, the list goes on. But I remember after 1972, Bruce Lee died shortly during the time that the movie was being promoted in the US. So as soon as we kind of got hyped on Bruce and the martial arts, the major figure was gone. But that didn't stop companies or stop filmmakers from trying to continue that whole genre. So you had a whole lot of people who rushed into the vacuum to essentially fill that void.
In a time just beyond tomorrow, when the surface world has become a war zone, the underworld cities have become electronic fortresses, and the only hope is an ex-cop. They killed his partner and created the perfect killing machine.
I give to you the TC 2000X.
Stop it! Starring Bolo Yeung, Jalal Mereh, Billy Blanks, a Matthias Hughes. TC 2000.
This film essentially was advertised as a sort of futuristic Terminator 2 / Escape from New York scenario. I should talk about Billy Blanks. He was born in 1955. Billy Blanks earned a name for himself in the 1970s and 80s when he won a series of martial arts competitions. A 7-time world karate champion, he was captain of the U.S. karate team and won 36 gold medals in international competition.
And most people know Billy Blanks from like the Taibo series. What a lot of people really don't know, Billy Blanks was legit. So we always looked at Billy kind of like, he's real. Michael Jai White talked about the legitimate skills that Billy Blanks had as a martial artist. And Michael Jai White is no joke either. That Billy Blanks taught him some things that he still integrates into his on-screen presence from time to time.
So Billy Blanks really cut his teeth doing these movies. Some of them did show in some theaters, but a lot of them were direct to video. There were several martial artists that had fame in the time when their films were out on video. The film also stars Bolo Yeung. Bolo Yeung really doesn't need an introduction. He's known as the Chinese Hercules and was in Enter the Dragon, you know. So the guy's just a legend. So the guys at North American Pictures, you know that they were making some pretty cool casting decisions when they were putting this movie together. When you went to the video store, you didn't know exactly when a film was sort of B grade or A grade. You didn't always know, because sometimes the cover was just super hot. And back then, if you didn't know all the stars, you know, you're just starting to rent movies. Let's say you're a teenager or you're in your 20s. And but you might say, oh, Bolo Yeung, he's from Enter the Dragon, you know, so you rent this thing.
When we would finish martial arts classes, you know, we would go rent movies at the local video store or, you know, wherever. And these are on like VHS, not even like DVD. I'm talking about, this was purely the VHS era. We would go rent all of these films, take them back to the dojo and watch them. We consumed as much martial arts material as we could, the good movies and the bad. If we could basically learn or try some type of technique, you know, and we, no matter what movie it was, we tried to basically emulate whatever the hell it was. I remember, like, you know, we would have like fights after class or fights before class. I remember almost damn near, you know, pulling my groin muscle out of whack because I tried to do the Van Damme split.
It's shot all on location. They're obviously using real factories. You can see there's a sort of control booth in the beginning. It looks like some kind of power facility they're in, and it looks like they got a few locations in which they could sort of build a believable story in which this is sort of an underground bunker type scenario. They're using lasers and smoke to sort of create what looks like force fields. They're using motorcycles. They're using real stunt people. There was a pretty awesome fire stunt. There is a lot of fighting.
North American Pictures, there was so much action. They didn't waste time on the story. The story was there. It was very kind of sort of vague, if you will, just basic. But they gave you, pound for pound, so much action from the opening scene to the end scene. They would spend a little bit of time, few lines back and forth. You see the good guy, bad guy, but they're going to fight, and they're going to fight a lot. So it really like fills the void of giving the people exactly what they want. And this kind of movie, they may have not always been the most, 5-star actor.
What? Never mind. We're in a terminal station that your father built. How do we stop this thing?
But they gave everything like it was a $20 million movie.
This is what I think is smart about TC-2000. They didn't have a ton of money for special effects. So as long as they can shoot most of the stuff in a location that feels industrial or post-industrial, you know, like it could be sci-fi-ish. If they just had a lot of fight scenes between characters, they could essentially make a 90-minute film in this way. And it's smart because it's a lot of action, but it's just people. It's literally a fight between one or two people, it cuts away, it's a fight between two other people. And so what you have is some pretty entertaining action, but you're not bleeding money. It's not giant set pieces. It's not like an oil tanker crashing into the beach or something, you know? So films like this are smart in some of the ways they figure out a way to make action for cheap. Billy Blanks is an incredibly gifted martial artist, so you can see there are scenes in TC-2000 where you're like, you know, he's doing these crazy double kicks, you know, there's, you know, his form is amazing, there's some really cool slow motion shots. They're using him well. Bolo Yeung, who's just brilliant martial artist and super famous, it feels like they don't really give him that much to do that is spectacular. He has some fight scenes, but there's no real showcases, you know.
Most of the people who were Bruce Lee adjacent really gained a lot of popularity and a lot of notoriety. Bolo Yeung, for example, was one of those people. Everybody knows Bolo from Enter the Dragon. You know, he was Hans Enforcer. As a result, after Bruce died and Enter the Dragon faded away, you saw Bolo start popping up in a lot of, you know, low-budget martial arts films. He never really talked much, but he was imposing enough that he didn't really have to. You just needed enough of a story to justify the action.
But, you know, back when you were watching these direct-to-video films, if you saw a couple wild martial, you know, kicks, karate kicks, you'd rewind that, you watch it over again. I mean, it was pretty awesome. Like, people were just easier to please. I mean, that's the easiest way to put it. When you were renting something, it was precious, and you kind of knew you had to commit to it because you paid the $5 for it. So you were going to go home and watch that thing, and you were going to give it the benefit of the doubt. And, you know, now the viewing audience is really cynical. They really they don't like low-budget stuff, you know. For narrative, they hate that. Well, when it really comes to narrative, they judge pretty harshly. If you were in your late teens and early 20s in the mid-90s, you might think that Billy Blanks was the same thing as like a Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think that was the illusion of the sort of direct-to-video era. That's what they capitalized on. Can you cut a trailer that looks sort of like a Hollywood trailer? Can you make the box art that looks sort of like a Hollywood box art, you know? I would actually argue that some of these action films at this point, the ones that were in the, you know, late 80s and early 90s, are sort of a window into the culture, and I guess that's always been the case for films, but Glickenhaus and Shapiro, the guys who ran North American Pictures, got out of the film industry at a certain point because none of the economics seemed to make sense.
You know, he has he produced some wonderful movies. He's moved on because he realized that if he wanted to make a lot of money, this wasn't the way to go, and he went into other businesses.
The films that Glickenhaus made fit so perfectly in the Troma catalog.
Yeah,
it's as if Troma made them. But was that more just about the era in which they were made, that level of experimentation?
I think Jimmy Glickenhaus was a serious filmmaker, and I think he's also a businessman. And back then, those movies like Maniac Cop and if they were serious kind of horror or serious violence, The Exterminator, it's a great film, but it's serious. It's not a comedy. You know, his films, I think, Glickenhaus movies are more commercial than Troma's.
In war, you have to kill to survive. On the streets of New York, the choice is the same. exterminator. The search is on. The police are chasing a killer who's not only smarter than they are, he's doing their job.
That's what it's like to be a victim.
The exterminator.
Maybe it's important to remember the literally thousands of films no one talks about anymore. Another martial artist that Glickenhaus and Shapiro used a lot was Cynthia Rothrock. Cynthia Rothrock was the basis for the Mortal Kombat character Sonya Blade.
Sonya.
And they based Sonya Blade upon Cynthia Rothrock. When she started doing films for North American Pictures, she did these Tiger Claws films. And by the time we get to the second and third film, they are essentially Mortal Kombat knockoffs. You know, it's a knockoff played by someone who the Mortal Kombat character was based upon to begin with, so is it really a knockoff? Cynthia Rothrock was a 5-time world champion, a weapons expert, and she beat out everyone at a time where there was no women's league. So she beat out all the men many, many, many times and is a famous world champion. And she has done films, China with Michelle Yeoh and Sammo Hung. Some of the greatest living martial artists, Cynthia Rothrock has been in there and held her own and sometimes excelled. And so she is a fascinating human being, underappreciated, I think. If you look at the film TC 2000, one of the things is Billy Blanks is the star of it, Phillips is the co-star. So you have essentially a film where it's fairly diverse. And if we look back in the direct-to-video area, I would actually say that was more common than people would admit to. We seem to have a bit of amnesia in this country when we look back, you know, because you look back at all the films and you're only thinking about like the top 20 films for that year, and you forget about the thousands of other films that had, you know, especially direct-to-video and independent, which have always had more diverse cast. They've always done more, they've always invented everything that the studio films then take from. I think it's more than just nostalgia. These are the B-list of action stars. The reason why I'm calling it American Expendables is that for every Van Damme and Seagal, there is a Billy Blanks, a Cynthia Rothrock.
When I did Tiger Claws, it was back from Hong Kong, so I wasn't really used to doing that many American films. But I was so excited about this one because this one was going to be shot in Toronto, Canada. And any opportunity I have to get out of LA, I'm just really happy. So when I get there, they don't have a stunt coordinator. And I'm like, where's the stunt coordinator? Who's going to do the action? And they go, oh, well, we thought you just would do your own action. And I'm going, but I'm not a stunt coordinator. So then I said, all right, well, I'll coordinate my action, but everybody else has to do theirs. And I never did that before. So it was my first time being the actor and doing my own action choreography. So there's a scene you'll notice where I have a purse and I swing it around like a steel whip. I was trying to take a little Jackie Chan, you know, from his movies of using things that are just laying around as a weapon. But it worked pretty good.
On the streets of New York's Chinatown stalks a new and deadly killer. A serial killer on the loose with ancient martial arts skills. Now, two of New York's toughest cops must use all their skills, all their knowledge, and all their courage to catch, Tiger Claws.
There must be 10,000 martial artists in New York alone.
He's not a lunatic, and he's not out of control, and that's what makes him so dangerous. Don't ever underestimate him.
You did that with a sword?
No, it's hand. It's Tiger Claws. I've been accepted to train with them. Defend yourself. He came at me with the same pattern, but I need more time.
There's no more time.
You're the same. We're not the same.
Jalal Marai. Cynthia Rothrock.
Hey everyone, I'm Tom Seymour. I'm here with Mr. Tim Cooley.
You look at some of the, I mean, it's 30 years old now, right? I mean, released 1991, which is crazy. I mean, it makes me feel incredibly old. But I look at Cynthia Rothrock, very woman empowerment. I mean, that's really in the kind of in the zeitgeist of movie making and even Disney films nowadays, right? The last several years, that's been a big thing.
I was actually thinking about this concept. One of the things is when they're looking at diversity in film and TV, the average person is not looking back that far, and they're not looking into anything but the mainstream. In the essentially the direct-to-video genre, the B-movie genre, there's a shitload. I mean, first of all, Cynthia Rothrock starring, Jalal Murray's Brazilian, you have Bolo Yeung, who's, Chinese, so, we just watched TC 2000, that's Billy Blank's. Direct-to-video and independent and B movies had a shitload more diversity. Someone like Bolo Yeung, you might be able to cast, even though he was in like Double Impact and Bloodsport.
A lot of the shots, they were atypical, but they weren't, I didn't feel like there was anything going on that was over the top, like say, Samurai Cop. You know what I mean? Obviously gratuitous fighting scenes, but I really felt they were really well choreographed, and somewhat believable street fights, not these crazy things where people are on like pulleys and like, jumping up walls and stuff like that. I mean, I loved her over the head kicks. Those are believable. And then the Sonya move that she did. Oh, that was totally cool.
She's similar to Chuck Norris in that he was more into fighting and less weapons. He was like a world champion who then got into movies, and Cynthia Rothrock was the same thing. She was a martial artist who then got into movies.
Right.
And so you can tell, when you're talking about the fight scenes, like she's awesome in them. And the other guy, Jalal Murray, also gifted martial artist as well.
This is pre, mainstream CGI like we see now, and people just had to kind of do their thing, and people had to use camera angles and jump cuts and stuff to make it believable or speed up the film slightly, right? I mean, that's a standard too with a lot of these martial arts films from the 80s.
What you just seen is martial arts at its best.
The average person would know who Jackie Chan is, but they might not know who Sammo Hung is, who's his sidekick, who was heavier guy, but could do just as crazy stuff,
Right.
And I think Cynthia Rothrock's like that. The other thing too is I believe that Tarantino, his Kill Bill series, obviously Uma Thurman is wearing literally Bruce Lee's outfit from Game of Death, but I think it's undeniable that Uma Thurman is partially, her character is influenced by Cynthia Rothrock,
Yeah.
He's seen all her films, you know what I mean? Like, there's just no way. You realize that this really production value, it's not that much different than like a Seagal movie or a Van Damme movie in their prime, It's not that different from Double Impact or something like that, or Lionheart. The film was made far better than I thought it was going to be, especially by the end.
Another thing about Tiger Claws is when we were filming, Jalal was supposed to have, Jalal, who was the producer, the actor, the director, and the money man. And the car didn't come for him to blow up. So he said, just take my car and blow it up. And I was like, but you have a Porsche. It's a nice Porsche. He goes, yeah, I don't care. It's for the movie. I want the movie to be good. So he blew his own Porsche up in that scene. I was like, oh my God, that's dedication. I wouldn't do that.
That was my car!
I've been expecting you.
It is the right of the people to provide for the common defense.
Does this rebel army have any money?
It's not enough.
It is the right of the people to promote the general welfare.
This is our annual fundraising drive, and we would like you to contribute $10 million.
It is the right of the people to rise up. To bear arms. To wage war.
They had produced films that had like Christopher Walken and Dolph Lundgren, but Dolph Lundgren coming off of some of his higher profile stuff.
In Rocky IV, he fought for his country.
What the hell is this?
Now, Dolph Lundgren is taking off his gloves and taking on an entire army. One man at a time. Red Scorpion.
The impetus behind the rebellion is this man. He is your targeted objective.
His one mistake meant a death sentence.
I leave you as an insult to your people. How could you fail?
Their one mistake.
Do you have a band-aid? You're breaking my bleeding heart, Moose.
Was not finishing the job.
We will deliver our response.
This is the rebel army.
Pride of the Soviet army.
First he was their weapon. Now he's their punishment. They think they control him. Let's kick some. Think again.
You might need some help!
So these guys, Glickenhaus and Shapiro, who were running North American Pictures, they got out of the film industry partially because it did become too expensive to pay some of these people.
Yeah.
So if they're paying like Christopher Walken like a certain amount of money, that it just, the finances didn't really add up at a certain point.
Well, I mean that's evidenced in the 90s. I mean, when we were, really getting focused on and interested in film, you start seeing actors and actresses earning, $7, $10, $15 million a film. I mean, now you're talking, some people earn in excess of $20, $30 million a film, and it's like, how can you justify that when there's an entire other staff and there's a profit margin that you're hoping for? I mean, effects budget and everything else. I mean, $200 million, laying out $250 million practically on something.
Mill Basin is a nice town with good schools.
Julie, what did Emerson mean by the Red Slayer? Emerson?
But trouble's coming to Mill Basin, and this town will never be the same.
If you knew a film was going direct to video, you would still shoot it on 16 or 35 to retain that cinematic quality and to make it a product that someone would actually buy, because at that time, late 80s, early 90s, the video is just looks purely electronic, like news. It 30 frames a second. There's no in between. So you had to shoot on film to be taken seriously. And
Right.
so, but in order to save costs, they'd have it typically transferred onto Beta SP tape, something like that, which was like a broadcast standard. And then they would edit purely on tape, and they'd make a tape master. You lose an incredible amount of data because it's a standard definition electronic format versus actual motion picture film, you know.
Right. And now with the phones that we have today, I mean, God, there's 4K cameras on the back of those, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. They would look. Yeah, I mean, you're still not getting the quality of lenses and things like that. But I guess the point is, though, the only master is probably like a Beta SP, you know.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
I would say with some of these Glickenhaus films, I think because so many of them screened at least some kind of limited screening, they probably do have prints of all of these. And if they have prints of all of them, then we're going to see, if Troma could get their hands on them, we're going to see much nicer looking transfers.
He's all excited. This time, he's not alone.
Bolo Yeung, the villain, has this deadly claw technique. They kind of push it to a
almost hammy, yeah,
hammy, like a mild superpower, you know, like he's
the tiger roar, like when he starts attacking. It's borderline camp.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's almost super villain.
On 3, I'm not in it that much. Okay, there's a reason. In the beginning, you think I die, and then in the end, I come back. Well, the reason I wasn't in it is because I was pregnant. Actually, 21 years from today, my daughter was born. She just turns 21. Had terrible morning sickness, and I was like getting sick, and I said, okay, Jalal, I can't really fight hard. I can't fight hard. They told me to take it easy, right? And he goes, okay. Well, when that camera came on and they said action, I just started fighting hard. I could not fight hard. There's a scene where they throw a spear at me or a dart or something, and I have a staff, and I'm supposed to hit it. Well, they're like, obviously you're not going to get the staff and hit that spearhead, right? So just try the best you can, and we'll take a pickup later and try to get it in close. So I said, okay. So first take comes in, wham, I hit that spearhead, and everybody's eyes were like stunned.
Plot is basically, someone is on a murdering spree, killing martial arts masters.
Yeah.
And these two cops have to delve into that world. And when you think about it, that's pretty badass, you know? It's a cool idea, you know? Yeah, you just realize that, you know, if you were in that time period, you like Van Damme wasn't Van Damme yet, probably in '91. These people may have not broken out in the way that you know them now.
If the movie had a decent box cover, or if we recognized the actor who was in it and we liked him, we would rent it. Simple as that.
North American Pictures, they filled a gap that we needed. There was no way that Hollywood could keep up with the demand and the voracious appetite that we all had going into the video store rental places. I mean, they couldn't keep up. So they were taking everything. And, you know, God willing, it was going to be a good movie. The box art was always good.
MCA Universal Home Video is pleased to announce the release of the action-packed science fiction adventure, Time Master. An exciting journey through time and space where a 12-year-old boy must make a desperate attempt to save his family from an uncertain fate. Time Master has all the elements needed for big, surefire sci-fi rentals, time travel, action, outer space, heroes, and villains, not to mention highly popular and recognizable stars like Pat Morita of Karate Kid fame. A December release date of Time Master has been strategically timed to coincide with peak rental periods, and it's a perfect opportunity to have fresh product in your store when demand is at its highest. There'll be an exciting marketing program starting with a pre-pack offer. Just buy 3 units of Time Master and receive a special desk clock with a built-in calculator and a Babe baseball jersey. Also, look for a highly visible trade print campaign and an aggressive mailer campaign. Street date is set for December 27th. A science fiction adventure the entire family will love. Time Master from MCA Universal Home Video.
It makes sense why there was just so many of these action films, because martial arts was super hot. There were McDojos on every corner. I remember I studied martial arts at Tracy Kempo for years, from high school into college.
I dipped my toe in there for a short period of time too.
Then we were filming now in the winter time in Toronto. It was freezing. Trying to warm up, we couldn't warm the muscles up. I ended up pulling 2 hamstrings. You know how hard that hurts? It hurts so bad that you can't even touch your knees. And I had to kick and do the rest of the movie with 2 pulled hamstrings. So I was like, all right, you got to do what you got to do.
She's done over 60 films, so that's no small feat. And she's still relatively young. Honestly, I went in with that 80s era expectations of, performance, narrative. And of course, there were, the sergeant sat on his words a few times.
Don't tell me we've got another lunatic out of control.
It's like, that's it. That's the only cut we have. We got to put it in. Back then, you didn't really care, and especially because of what I said earlier, which is the narrative was less important than the action. It was filling in. You're like, okay, whatever. They're going to have this blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, who are we going to hit next?
Many of them were legit martial artists. They weren't actors, per se. No! At that time, they didn't need to be Bruce Lee or the greatest on-camera martial artist in order for the movies to basically be produced and sold. We needed enough of a plot to justify the action. That's it. And most of those movies at the time usually revolved around revenge, protecting the neighborhood or something along those lines, or, but it was all about revenge. You killed my teacher, you killed my girlfriend, you blew up my school, you're hurting people. Now I'm coming after you.
I guess I give these movies from this era a little bit of a reprieve, and I probably beat up modern films a heck of a lot more, because there's an expectation like, look, I can go out and get a 4K camera today and spend, a couple $1,000s with some lenses, the base camera and everything else, and make a feature film of high quality. You know what I mean? So, and back then, you had to come up with many times that just to get the equipment on set.
You're burning, that's the thing, is you're burn, especially in those action scenes, shooting 35, you're burning money. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I get why it was so expensive to some degree. But I think that, you can't put expectations onto a 30-year-old film. It doesn't make any sense.
Trying to analyze those films from today's perspective is not fair. It really isn't. A lot of the stuff that they did was more practical. You had stunt people who actually did their stunts. But in the US, you didn't have a whole lot of wire work. The films, to a certain extent, are far more realistic than, in some ways, than what we have today. We didn't have the CGI. We don't shoot on film, so it becomes a lot easier for us to have multiple takes, because we don't have to develop our stuff. Digital filming allows you to essentially film it and get an immediate reaction of seeing how it is. The lights that we have are not LED lights, and not like the lights that they had back then. You would blow bulbs constantly and had to replace them. All of those things were added to the overall expense.
If I had discovered this back in the early 90s, I think I would have followed Cynthia's career closer. I've got the curiosity of her other work, and we'll probably just keep going and checking out some more of it, because she was clearly very good, and it was enjoyable.
If you really, really watch the movies, you just see the heart put into those movies. I mean, these guys they're putting themselves out there. And Cynthia Rothrock, she is someone that is very famous. At the same time, yes, it's true, she should be more so.
But Tiger Claws was a lot of fun for me. It's a movie that a lot of people remember. It was a lot of fun. It was great working with Jalal and all the other people. It was great working with Bolo. So we had so much fun on that.
I have myself made movies with some of the people who work directly with North American Pictures, like Christian Ingvardsson. He did a number of movies that are in their catalog. And I sort of started working with him right at the beginning of the end. I think like the action movie, just for sake of action, was really starting to go out like in the mid-90s. The martial arts movies and stuff, they were sort of being traded off, it seems, for mafia movie. And of course you had the horror movies and stuff like that. Listen, many people that I knew at that time made movies specifically for buyers from Blockbuster. It could just be, one outfit, but they had them all over, the country and other countries. So all you needed was one good buyer with a promise of X amount of units that they would buy, and they would tell you what they wanted or needed to fill the shelves and what was, renting. Just do something, in this genre along these lines, and I'll get it. I'll pick it up. But yeah, the sellers started dropping off like flies in that transition period in the early 2000s. It never had the kick that it was, that it could have had it been 5 years earlier.
I think honestly, if Glickenhaus's movies and if Troma's movies, we have hundreds of them, were in the hands of stronger people, they're better than what's on Netflix. I'm sorry. There's some great stuff on Netflix, but most of it is garbage. It's boring. It's got nothing to say. It's just the same old crap. But everything we do is one of a kind. But the problem is we've never had any good sales. We've put all our money into making art. We've not put any money into hiring the elite salespeople who all know each other. And unfortunately, we're out sucking hind tit because we don't have any contacts.
Hey, Denny! What? You just won the contest. What contest? The wet t-shirt contest, motherfucker!
I mean, does anyone ever come out of the woodwork and say, hey, you know what, you done well?
Stan Lee was a big supporter. He got us into Marvel Comics, and I was friends with him until he died. And John G. Avildsen, with whom I worked on Joe, Cryuncle, Rocky, and we were lifelong friends. He was realistic. But he also would say to me, he told me I had a bad reputation and that there's no chance I'm going to get hired. But as a director on some bigger stuff, because obviously the stuff I do is rather personal.
Meet little Melvin. He's a 90-pound weakling. Everyone hated Melvin.
I'm gonna take this mop and shove it down your throat.
They teased him.
I wanna do it with you. Okay.
They taunted him. They tormented him until he had a horrifying accident and fell into a vat of nuclear waste, transforming little Melvin into a hideously deformed creature of superhuman size and strength. Melvin became the Toxic Avenger. The first superhero born out of nuclear waste.
Holy shit!
I don't know what it was, but it saved my life.
everybody, drop your tacos or I'll blow your brains out.
The vandals and the perverts had their way with the little people of Tromaville until the Toxic Avenger ripped them apart. The Toxic Avenger. His face is so terrifying. We can't show it to you now. You'll have to see the movie for yourself. The Toxic Avenger can bend steel with his bare hands.
Oh, we're only kidding. Get it?
Leap small cars in a single bound. He crushes drug pushers. Smashes hit-and-run drivers. For incredible, explosive action, you must see the Toxic Avenger. He's a different kind of hero. The Toxic Avenger is coming to your town. Look out.
But he also, would say, hey, look what you've accomplished. You've got this company that's been going for all this time. You've created the Toxic Avenger and Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD. There is a Troma universe, Dolphin Man, Class of Nukem High, the Cretans, but nobody cares. Nobody wants to care because there's not enough in it for them. New York Times wants the advertising, so they have to twist themselves into a pretzel to say that a zombie movie brought to you by 20th Century Fox, or the fifth iteration of Chucky, which isn't even a movie, you can't win. It's just, I don't know what more I can do. And the Toxic Avenger remake, let's see. I think that's going to be very good, but we're only minor players.
I mean, that director I like. I mean,
yeah,
first of all, he's a great
Blades.
actor, and then his movie, I Don't Feel at Home in This World.
Yeah, it's terrific. We are very fortunate, legendary. I knock on wood, but they get it. They get it, and Malcolm Blair gets it, and Dinklage was a Toxic Avenger fan. What's interesting is, I wanted to ask the cast when I was on set, did you hear of a most of them weren't even born when we made Toxic Avenger. And it's remarkable how many people enjoy the film. It's just, unless we have a huge amount of money and the right PR people, we're fucked. We're dead in the water, basically. The only reason Troma's still here is our fans. That's the secret sauce. Our fans, they book our theaters. They gave us money for #Shakespeare Shitstorm. We got about 10% of the budget, which was... We got $35,000, not quite 10%, from Bad Dragon. Bad Dragon is a company that makes adult toys, and they gave us $35,000 just to help us as patrons of the arts. They didn't even ask for a piece of the movie because they knew that it wouldn't really be, it'd be better to buy Google stock. And the cast of #Shakespeare Shitstorm, everybody on it was a Troma fan, and it was the greatest experience of my filmmaking career because everybody was so devoted to the movie, and we ended up making a $50 million movie for under maybe $500,000. We did 9 days in Albania. Terrific place to film.
So yeah, why was that? Just cheap?
We got a deal we couldn't refuse, thanks to Justin Martell, who has a specialty of developing industries or travel or tourism in obscure new places, and he had a relationship with the Albanian government.
I was curious if there was any Shakespearean quotes or even within Shitstorm that you felt applied to you or Troma.
Oh, fuck yeah. I waited until I was in my dotage to tackle The Tempest. I would have done it when James Gunn was around, when we did Romeo and Juliet. But I wanted to wait till I was old, and boy, I'm Prospero for sure. It's a play that's druggy as hell, and has a monster, and it's got fairies, and a beautiful love story, and it's Troma all the way. So I'm Prospero, and I feel it.
Our revels now are ended, And these, our actors, as I foretold you, are spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped mountains, the solemn temples, the glorious palaces, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherits shall dissolve.
Those scat-covered snowflakes are caught in the shitstorm!
I found a cure for opioid addiction. What I didn't realize is that the opioid addiction is a $50 billion industry, enriching the elites. There I was, my life's work stolen from me, betrayed by my own sister, shunned from society. All these years I've been planning my revenge against Avon Bard and all the world. I had Ariel infiltrate their boat and using gallons of whale laxative, lured them to their doom.
How beauteous mankind is, oh brave new world that has such people in it.
Tis I who's beckoning. Time's up and welcome to your final reckoning.
We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
Woo!
I'm here with Mr. John Brennan, producer of Shakespeare's Shitstorm. How you doing tonight?
Thank you. I'm doing well, and I appreciate you speaking to me on this very prestigious evening where we've premiered #Shakespeare's Shitstorm at the Museum of the Moving Image. Honestly, this has been humongously cathartic. We've been watching this movie on, computer screens and television screens for about 3 or 4 years, and this is the first time that I got to see the movie in a big screen with the sound and all that stuff, and to see it with a bunch of people and the laughter, and it's just a different experience. I mean, this is a communal movie, and it played really well. I mean, all the jokes that we wanted to hit, all the gags hit, and it was unbelievable. So I feel like, post-pandemic, this is the movie that you have to see in a theater. It's all about trying to bring people together, and Lloyd's message, essentially, for one of the themes is that if we all work together as the human race, that we'll get to a better place. Thank you for having me. This was absolutely a pleasure, and I just want to say quickly that I owe it all to Lloyd Kaufman, who gave me a shot to produce this movie. This was the second movie that I ever produced, second feature, and it's invaluable. I mean, the Troma system works. There's an old infomercial from the 90s called the Troma system, and the thing that they say throughout is, the Troma system worked for me, and for me, in my life, that absolutely is true. The Troma system worked for me. Not many people have done what Lloyd and Michael Herz and Troma have done over the course of 50 years now, and it's hard to deny. They never really sold out. I mean, selling out is one thing, but they never really were betrayed their own hearts, is what I'm trying to say. And they made movies the way that they wanted to make them, and they made movies that they wanted to see. And a lot of people give that up in order to get a glory or a paycheck or something. So they've always been true to themselves, and I respect that about Troma, and I hope it keeps going. I hope that Lloyd and Michael can keep it going for the next younger generation, and get those people inspired, and get the next, like Lloyd says, the next James Gunn's and things like that out there. Sometimes it's good to give yourself away for free. I came to Troma as a editing volunteer, and I edited some of Lloyd's Make Your Own Damn Movie stuff. And I guess he liked it, so I stuck around. Then I got to be his assistant, did that for a few years. Then I got to produce a couple of his movies. So with that, I then got to get on a TV show called The Last Drop in the Joe Bob Briggs. Justin Martell and Matt Manchurides. So I owe a lot to Troma, and I would like to say that Lloyd is such a generous guy, and I wouldn't have the career that I have without him. So thank you, Lloyd.
Well, thank you very, very much.
It's interesting that Troma invested a lot of money in getting some of these old action films and hopefully, promoting them again, because they are interesting from time to time. One of the things I'm actually shocked that we don't have a lot of filmmakers today creating action films with the equipment that we currently have. When it's a lot less expensive, you can basically, have higher quality in terms of the resolution. It's not as expensive to light. And finding martial artists in like New York or any major city, especially with the rise of like the UFC and people being into martial arts far more now than they used to be, I'm shocked that we don't have more independent filmmakers making these films on the cheap.
After examining the films of North American Pictures, I can see the expectations were just far different 30 years ago than they are today. We can't judge these films by 2024 standards. We have to look at the audience they were created for 30 years ago. And when we do that, we see that these were really interesting martial arts films. The people that starred in them were professional martial artists. This is different than a lot of modern films, where actors learn martial arts and then act in the film. This has been an examination of Troma Entertainment's new catalog by North American Pictures. And long live independent film.